Lifestyle by Design. I'm the host, Margaret Wiltshire, and tonight I'm honored to have a very special guest, Chris Brogan. Chris, welcome.
Margaret, thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It's an honor to have you here. It's an honor to have you here this Thursday night. I know it's your family time, but we are going to have so much fun. And I just want to inform the audience a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Chris, you are a New York Times bestselling author. You've written 8 books already, and you're working on a 9th one, I heard, that's top secret. That hopefully be out soon. You are the CEO of Ona Media, providing simple plans and projects for business solutions. And you are a highly sought after professional speaker. You have also consulted with some of the biggest brands that are out there today: Disney, Coca-Cola, Google, GM, Microsoft, Coldwell Banker, Scott's, Humana Health, Cisco, and Sony, just to name a few. You've also appeared on Dr. Phil. You've interviewed Richard Branson, one of my heroes. One day I'll meet him. For a cover story for Success magazine, and you've even presented to a princess. You've also worked with Paulo Coelho, one of my personal top favorite authors, Harvey Mackay, Stephen Pressfield, who I email, by the way. We speak via email. I love his book, The War of Art. And you worked with these people. You've worked with Tony Robbins, another personal favorite of mine, on the Internet Money Masters series, which I do own. And Forbes has listed you as one of the must-follow marketing minds. And also they listed your website as one of the 100 best websites for entrepreneur. Stat Social rated you number 3 power influencer online. So Chris, I personally have labeled you the online Jedi master. I don't think you know that, but that's how I refer to you.
Well, thank you. You can just call me Chris if you want, but I guess I would answer it online Jedi master.
So Chris, tell me, how did you get into the online space?
Probably backwards from most anybody out there. I wasn't looking around thinking I need to make some money here. My very first connection with any of this was I was up in Maine, and my neighbors wanted to only talk about one of 3 things. Was it Mustang versus Camaro, Led Zeppelin versus Van Halen, and would the Sox ever win a World Series? My answers were Camaro, Van Halen, and I don't know. And, that was about it. And so the very first exposure I had to online was if people wanted to talk about Batman or Star Wars or nerdy stuff. And I could talk to people about interest as opposed to things that were specific to a locale. And that's where I first got into it. And then business-wise, it took me I started blogging back in 98 when they called it journaling, but it wasn't until maybe around 2005 or so where I started seeing where there could be some business opportunities. And 2006, I ran an event with my friend Chris Penn called PodCamp. And then ever since then, it's really just kind of been all over the place. And when I started taking on clients, I didn't know any better that you were supposed to start small or something like that. So I just said, we work with Fortune 100s. And that's who started ringing the bell pretty much right away. Was, I think, Titleist Golf, and a few. Sony was really quickly right thereafter. And then we just luckily had those kinds of clients really early on just to consult with and talk to, and, talk about how media can help you grow your business. And we had a lot of fun with that just because, I was forever 1 or 2 or 3 employees total in a company, talking to a company who's like cream cheese putter outers. There were like 16 of them. So, it was always kind of fun to be the little guy working with giants. So that was kind of exciting.
That's awesome. Now, along this way, you've been doing this for a while now. You have helped, I'm sure, thousands of people within the online space.
Sure.
What do you love the most or excites you the most about helping entrepreneurs?
I work with people that look at themselves as owners, which means that they choose to own their lives and their choices and their responsibilities and thus own their future. And so that might be somebody who's still an employee, but they've chosen to become the CEO of their cubicle. It might be someone side business that they're trying to get going. And it could be someone who's, in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s who wants to figure out who they want to be when they grow up. And I guess what I love most is showing people a way that you could do this with, compassion and kindness, and that you can earn the right to sell and serve people, as opposed to what tends to happen, which is where people go out and think, how can I get rich? I like to help people find ways to make money that actually serves all sides of the equation. And so a lot of what I do is walk people through the best ways to connect with people, how to take more action, how to build great content that you can use to nurture community, and then build a marketplace around that.
One of your specialties is making the process very simple and easy to use. And you offer in your program, I was a member of your Earn More Customers program, and it's really actionable and step-by-step. So why is it important to offer a simple step-by-step solution in your experience?
Well, with regards to simplicity, I'm always amazed how many people tend to want to make stuff seem really complicated, and they try to make it like it's very tricky. I think it's usually from some fear that people will think it's not that important if it seems easy. And I always said to people, it's simple, but it's not easy. Most everything I recommend is not an especially easy thing to get done, but it's not that hard to figure out. So, it takes work, it takes steps. I mean, it's like planting a seed. There's not a lot in planting a seed. You dig a hole, you stick the seed in it, you put some water on it. But then there's all these other elements that make something work or not work. And I guess that's what I try to help people with the most. With Earn More Customers, it was a really simple thing. People had taken my online course maker course and they went, oh, I don't know who to sell this course to. I don't really have a list. Oh, well, here's how you do that. And I didn't really have much more in store for it. Besides that, was just, here's how you build and nurture some kind of email newsletter list. And a lot of my projects along the way have been like that. It'll come out of somebody saying, well, you seem to get a lot done. How do you get a lot done? Well, I use this thing, and it's like the 20-minute plan. So it's very organic for me. I think other people tend to have some sort of master plan, but my plan is just really help other people and serve them.
That's really cool. I'm one of those people that like to maybe make things really complicated. And I don't think it's really making it really complicated. I think going into the online space, it's just like overwhelming, exceedingly overwhelming. You've got to know copy, funnels. It's not just put up the website and put this product or offer this service. There is a ton more, which can get really complicated. And we tend to be like, what do I need to do first? So in your experience, for entrepreneurs entering the online space, what do you see? What are the top 3 common mistakes that people make?
I'd say the first mistake that people make is that they tend to operate from their side of the fence, meaning they're thinking, I need this before I can sell, or I need this before I can help. I need this set up so that people understand more about what I do. And, I had a early on run-in. I fired a guy early on in my running my own company career because he was waiting for his business cards before he could be a salesman. And I said, gee, it's so weird, but little rectangles of cardboard don't make you a salesman or not. I'm pretty sure you could sell without them. And so I let him go because, I wouldn't want a salesman who thought that was why he couldn't get a sale, was that he just didn't have a business card, which, by the way, he could have made it Staples the same day if he wanted. It would have been fine. So I think that when we start, we're always kind of worried about what people are going to think about us. We write a lot about our reputation on our website. We write all kinds of information that might be useful, if we're worried that people think we're some kind of bad person or whatever. But websites and all the other copy we should be writing should answer the question, what do you do to help people? How do you solve something for them? The most basic thing in the world, Arm & Hammer baking soda. It's basic. And the first thing it says, hundreds of uses, like fresh box for baking. And then on the side, it tells you that if you stick this in the fridge, you should only leave it there for 30 days. It's a really basic product. Most people's websites aren't smart enough to do that. 3 inches of a piece of cardboard could do. And so I think that's number 1. Number 2 is that we complicate the way that we sell things. We complicate how much we charge people for things. And I think we need to make it simpler. One thing online marketers like to do is make pricing like $9.97 or $4.97 and all these kind of weird numbers. We stopped doing that. One day we just said, you know what? You know it's $500. If I write 500 and I usually tell you $4.97, how psychological am I being? Like, are you really thinking $3 is not the same as 500? And by the way, technically, probably yes. People see the 4 and they think 4. People see 5 and they think 5. It's $100 difference, even though it's only 3. But we just said we're going to stop doing that. And it's almost like a reverse magic trick at this point. We're like, this is exactly the price. Oh, well, that's the price. You know, it's different than the other way. And then the third, I guess, the third mistake a lot of people make is that they don't follow through with the basics. They don't follow through with the real basics of, you know, helping the person make the purchase, nurturing them after the sale, making sure that they have what they need out of the process, and following up to make sure that they maybe don't need something else. I mean, there's people, we leave sales laying around. There's a study that says, by the way, that people don't buy until the 5th through the 11th touch. Meaning if I ask you 5 times, 6 times to buy something, you don't, that's when you start to think about buying it. Most people stop after the second ask and they're like, oh, they must not want it. I asked them twice. Turns out that's not actually how we buy. And so I guess that's part of my third one about we don't follow through. You need to actually, you know, be politely persistent if you're trying to make a sale.
Wow. You know, what's funny is I'm listening to that. I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense because for me, you know, but I have to want whatever that product might be, right? And it has to add some value. I have to feel like I'm getting some result. And when I see it over and over and over, I know I say to myself, I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that, you know, and that's very interesting because it makes sense.
And the other thing we say to that too, Margaret, is that, I mean, we'd rather a no than a weird yes. Like we'd rather a no than someone feel like they were pushed into something. So even though we ask a bunch of times when we're selling something, I'm trying to get you to know faster. Like I'd rather you go, that's not going to help me. And then I don't have to keep asking you, as opposed to someone who says maybe, and then I'm going to bother you until you say yes.
Okay. I saw a quote the other day too that said, the money's in the follow-up, which was something you talked about where, you know, after the second time, people drop the ball. So that also, you know, that's something for those listening to keep in mind, you know. So I know, Chris, that it's very important for you, people adding value to the world. I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, and when I had mentioned to quite a few folks that I was going to interview you, they talked about, you know, not feeling like they had something to offer that was of value, being caught up with the word expert. You know, everyone's like this expert. And what would you say about something like that? Somebody who probably really has something important to add to the world, but maybe because they don't feel that they're this expert, you know, they have nothing and it stops them. What would you say to someone like that?
First, I say I'm not much of an expert in anything. Like I'm pretty good at writing. That's about all I got as a saleable business opportunity. I have 2 other skills probably that are not so bad either. But then beyond that, you don't have to be the expert. We don't want experts except for a very few times in our lives. You know, I don't want an expert fry cook. I just want the French fries. I don't want, you know, an expert lawnmower. I want someone to mow the lawn so I don't have to. You know, they don't have to be especially good at it. And, you know, we want really expert pilots. Like I want the plane to land and I don't want to blow up on the runway. That'd be good. I want a really expert surgeon. You know, an expert surgeon sounds good to me. But other than that, there's very few experts that we need in the world. I tell people a lot about my very simple theory called the Little Drummer Boy. You know, it's the song, The Little Drummer Boy. You know, there's some king being born and he's being told, you know, hey, we're all going to go give gifts. And he's like, I don't have anything. I'm poor. Like, I just play drums. And they're like, that's your gift, dummy. Go play the drums for him. And he's like, okay. Right. And we have gifts. We just don't realize that someone else might actually want something from them. I can't assemble IKEA furniture to save my life. I can buy it. There's lots of it. There's 4 right here, and they've yet to be assembled, and it's been 2 years. There's 4 cardboard boxes just covered in dust. So if like someone actually could assemble an IKEA, they're already smarter and better than me. I'd pay someone money to get that done. Everything is like that. That's what entrepreneurship is. It's solving something for someone, and it's assuming some level of risk in that to acquire a reward. That's what entrepreneurship is. It's not some title you give yourself just because you want to make a website. It's you can figure out how to solve someone else's problem. When someone says I have no gifts, it's because they're looking inside. What they should be doing is looking at the people that they know and the people that they can reach, and think, is there something I can do to help these people? Is there something they're willing to pay money for? And do I know enough of them to make enough money to do this? That's entrepreneurship.
Yeah. It's being able to fulfill that need, you know. Question went right out of my head.
Well, I'll give you one other quick example of two really basic entrepreneurs in my life while you're thinking of your question.
Sure.
One's this lady, Danielle, who works with me, who is pretty good at listing things on eBay. Now, how hard is it to list something on eBay? Well, it turns out there's a little bit of skill to it. It looks, you could just type stuff into a box, but she knows how to, match other listings, how to get people to pay attention, what kind of photos are necessary, etc. So I give her stuff to sell all the time, stuff of mine that I don't need anymore. I give her 50% commission. So she gets, if she sells something for $100, she makes 50. We've made a few $1,000 together so far, just giving her stuff. I had another guy who came in here and his job was to do some house cleaning. I needed sort of like a thorough house cleaning. And so this guy and his wife showed up, and he noticed that I had a particular need. He was a guy who installed some IKEA stuff for me. He saw some boxes. He goes, "Hey, you want some help with that?" I was like, "Yeah." So he came expecting to get paid about $250 for what I had to do for him. He left with $1,000 because he had so many other projects he could figure out. And he said, "I don't understand why people aren't like this. I don't understand why people can't just figure out that they can help people." So that's what I say to people all the time. And hopefully that gave you some time for your next question.
That's pretty awesome. I may need to get linked up with Danielle. I've had something sitting on eBay for like 30 days now, and I'm like, what's happening? So yes, my question came back to me. In offering value to the world, there's so many people out there now, especially on the online space. The barrier of entry is pretty low. So everyone and their mom is in there. How do you stand out with all the noise?
I've always given people sort of different advice than the norm. A lot of people say you have to pick some sort of niche and go down that. Some people say you've got to really, tighten up your demographic. I like to say that there's a lot of different ways to approach a problem. For instance, a lot of my friends sell things on how to build online courses. I have something called Online Course Maker. When you line them up, you can see just from the sales pages who's doing it which way, and you get a real sense. Some people do it very comprehensive. Some people do it where it's, it's a lot more easygoing. Some people, you have to use a very specific software, but we're all selling kind of the same thing. So which one do you pick? Well, I always say, pick the person you like. Pick the person you feel like is going to be supportive of you and behind the product. There's so many ways to sell something different than the other person. You can go to vending areas. If you go to any trade show, for instance, you can go to a trade show and there'll be people hiding way back in the backside of the booth. They're not doing anything to talk or engage with anybody. They're not making any sales. Then you got other people that are sitting up front going, "Hey, how are you doing?" And just interrupting any single person who walks anywhere near the booth. And that can be useful, or it could be annoying. So you have to really, once you have a vague sense of what you're selling to people, find a way that's going to help connect them in some sort of way. One person sold to me something that I didn't know I needed or wanted. They said, "I really noticed you had this thing going on, but I know you're a professional speaker and you're probably working with a couple of bureaus. I know a couple of big places that are looking for speakers. I would like to act as sort of your personal agent to a few of these opportunities." I was like, "Okay." And I said, "So we give our agencies like 20% to be part of this." She goes, "Well, I want 25. And I was like, "Oh, I wasn't really negotiating." And she said, "Well, that's the price." And I said, 25% of nothing is, fine by me." So she ended up booking me like $200,000 worth of speeches, and she made okay money doing it. So I can tell you that there wasn't anything that made her stand out except that she reached out to me. There's thousands of speaking agencies. This girl reached out to me and said, "I'm going to just land you some gigs. You want them?" And it worked really well for me. So that's how you stand out. You stand out by serving people in a way.
Wow, those are great, actually out of the box ideas that you're talking about. And for those listening, think about that. Think about how you can serve, what you can do, because everyone's got skills. Everyone's got something special. And as you mentioned before, you touched on a bit, if you're not really sure, then maybe you can ask someone, see what they need and maybe what you're good at doing, or maybe have them tell you what, they think you're pretty good at. And you can start from there, and begin that journey to entrepreneurship.
You really never know too, Margaret. I mean, it could be something as simple as you clean up other people's emails for them. This guy, Brian Robeson, has a service, and it's kind of like Uber for writing help, and it's called Editor with an extra R on the end. And it is a great service because you can fling anything at them, text messages, email, web copy, or whatever. And whoever is available will pick up the service and say, oh, I want some of this. And then give it back. You basically give back the edited copy, and you can take the changes or not. So that's something where a lot of people could have that sort of skill set. Uber is a service that's built around the idea that you've got a little extra time in a clean car, right? So, I mean, there's someone out there who wants something, and it's not as complex ever as we make it sound.
Wow, great ideas, really great ideas. Tell me, Chris, in your journey to entrepreneurship, what were some of the craziest lessons you've learned?
Don't build your software on top of someone else's software, because that means they can pull the rug out from under you by deciding not to make that software anymore. Don't hire lots of people really fast, because then you have to pay for them all. And, overhead walks on 2 feet is what Felix Dennis said in his book, How to Be Rich. I learned, don't ever think that your idea is wrong just because not as many people do it. Sir Richard Branson, in his book, Business Strip Bare, talked all about, the fact that he likes his businesses to be about 100 people at the most. And I was always a big fan of smaller size companies than not. So even when I work with somebody like Google or Coke or Microsoft, I was always asking them, well, why couldn't we do it like this? Or how come we can't be smaller? And, sometimes it's hard for them to think that way. And there's, by the way, benefits for scale. The other kinds of mistakes that I've learned are, be really better with your invoicing. If you're a small company and you're running your own business, like entrepreneurs tend to do, don't think of an invoice as something that people are not hoping to get. People want the invoice because they want to know how much it's going to fully cost. They want to know that they can start paying for it. If you set up a plan, if they need to, it's important to understand that a bill is out there, and for them to be able to manage that on their side. Sometimes we don't invoice because we're worried that people are going to think negatively, but that's silly. They said yes to a service, and this is part of that service. So those are some of the best, easiest lessons, I guess, to take. The final would just be communicate more often. Be a lot more outgoing in your communication, because a lot of times what happens with entrepreneurs is they get quiet because they're focusing on the work. But if you're silent, then people think you're out of mind. You know what I mean? You've forgotten them, et cetera, et cetera. And when you're not communicating because you're working too hard on client work, you're not lining up your next potential client either. So you're not helping anybody in that sense either.
Wow. Okay. Very important. So it is a tradition here at Lifestyle by Design for the guest to offer 3 action steps to viewers that it can implement into their lives right away. So let's say for the person, the newbie, or maybe someone who's considering having an online business, what are 3 action steps that they can implement right away to get the ball rolling?
You know what I would do is, before you work on your big idea that you think you're going to ruin and you're not good enough to pull off, and you're probably a failure and everyone already told you stink, I would start with something easier. I would go to some place like Weebly or Wix, make a really simple page, figure out what kind of business you can put up there and sell stuff on. I would start a MailChimp account right away and start getting people to sign up to a newsletter of whatever kind, and just build this process out by which you can earn people's attention, get a yes to a newsletter subscription, and start talking to them about the things that you maybe want to help and sell and offer. From there, figure out some product to start with, something at all that you could sell them, even if it's not your product. You could be an affiliate marketer by going to a company like Share a Sale and sign up for something that you want to promote and sell because you love it so much. There's lots of products on there that people are hoping someone else will sell for them. You now have a website, you have an email list, and you have a product. And now you just have to start testing all 3 of those things together to start to earn someone's attention and get the opportunity to sell or do something for them. So that's something I would do, is start with a really simple project that isn't exactly your big, I'm going to change the world project, and go from there.
Okay. Chris, where can people find you if they want to reach you?
Oh, that's super easy. If you can't spell my name, just go to owner.media. If you can spell my name, just go to chrisbrogan.com. And either way, just grab the newsletter, because that to me is the easiest way to see how I do what I do, and then decide if you want to talk to me more.
Okay, so I'm also going to put this information into the chat box here because I have your website there. There we go. Display. Hey, hold on. So for anyone, there it is. And you have an amazing newsletter that I absolutely love. And you have to sign up. And I know that was one of your tips, that you have to opt in to receive your newsletter, because it's your special gift to people on your list. And Chris has a fabulous newsletter, and he's always relating the regular things in life to business, and I think it's pretty awesome. There's an art to how you do that, and I always find it fascinating. And you can keep up with him there also. So that's Chris Brogan, ChrisBrogan.com. You're also at owner.media, which is awesome. He's got really awesome, very simple step-by-step courses, and you can do like either a monthly subscription for maybe one program, or you could purchase it all, or you can do a subscription, a bigger subscription to all his courses, which is amazing. And you get the whole enchilada there, new projects too. And I definitely recommend it. And he's got a Facebook group, a fabulous, very supportive and engaging Facebook group. So Chris, I want to thank you very much for so generously sharing your time, your wisdom, your experience with us all. Thank you for adding value to the world. Thank you for doing what you do, because you've helped thousands of people. I know you've impacted my life. I like to say I broadcast, from the Big Apple in my tiny apartment, and I've learned so much from you. So I want to thank you for that time that you generously shared with us tonight. And I honor you for doing what you do. Thank you so much.
You're very kind. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me some time and giving me the chance to chat with the people that you like to serve.
Thank you. So everyone, have a great night. If you thought that, this was valuable, please share it with someone. Like, comment, share, and pass the good word along. So thank you all. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you all again soon. Good night and peace out.